This is the David Carrier Show.
Hello and welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and you have found the place where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law. You know, I like to be positive around here. That was a replay, in case you were wondering. So now you can call 774-2424, area code 616-774-2424. We'll get your question, comment, or concern on the air, because I'm positive that we will have the answer for you. I'm positive that things are working out. I'm positive that we've got a dementia case in the White House. I'm positive for COVID. That's right. See, I'm a very positive person. Don't you love that? Positive. Anyway, it had to happen. I'm back quarantining. No one else in the house has it, of course. Of course. Which means what? It means that I got it because it's out there serving the families of West Michigan. That's right. Well, I think it does happen to be true. Out there doing the righteous thing, doing the good thing for folks. And so, well, anyway, long story short, as I think will happen, as doctors, maybe that's what it was. Huh. We had a few doctors in this past week, past few weeks. We do have a fair number of doctors. We love the doctors. Don't get me wrong. I totally love them. But now I'm wondering, because and they were masked and stuff, though, come to think of it. But still, they're like, look, everyone's going to get this thing, this Omicron, whatever the heck. Sounds like something out of Star Trek, doesn't it? Anyway, everyone's going to get it, so that'll be our solution to this thing. So put it this way, I'm just another brick in the wall against the COVID, right? So I got it. Of course, I got all the shots too. If those shots worked, I was covered by the shots. And plus, I'm sure I'll just say it before someone else does. That's why you're not in the hospital on a respirator, et cetera, and all that, because you did have the shots. Well, I'm not knocking the vax. When I was in the Army, you could only speculate on what the heck they were shooting you up with. This was back in the 70s, so I made it that far. So I'm not particularly worried about the vax. All for it. Why not? But I do think it should be a personal choice. I don't knock anybody else who says, hey, see, it's one thing with this vax if it's like, okay, once you have it, you can't get it. Oh, yeah, you can. Well, if once you have the vaccine, you can't give it to somebody else. Oh, yeah, you can. All right. So I thought I was taking this vaccine so that I couldn't get it. And then if I did get it, no, I wasn't going to get it. Like polio. Imagine the polio vaccine worked this way. It's like, yeah, well, you'd have been a lot worse off. You'd have been in the iron lung for 2 years instead of 6 months, you see? Or imagine it worked that way with diphtheria or whooping cough or pertussis which is whooping cough. Any of those other things. I mean, I thought the idea with the vaccination was now I don't have to worry about giving it and I don't have to worry about getting it. Yay. That's a vaccine. And now they're saying, well, at least you're not dead. I'm saying, well, that's true. And, because this, but I don't think it's thanks to the vaccination that the thing migrated or mutated or whatever the heck it did into something that's barely a cold. And seriously, I had cold symptoms. That's what I had. And I'm like, well, I got it from the kid who had a cold a couple of weeks ago and tested negative, when we did the test. So I finally said, all right, fine, I'll take the test. Uh-oh. Red stripe, there it is, into the basement with you. So there we are. Isolated once again. As you may recall, when this thing first started 2 years ago, right? I spent like 3 months in the basement and it's a nice basement. Don't get me wrong. It's a nice basement. Got my little setup down here and, I'm fine. Nobody needs to cry. Don't cry for me. But I am in a basement And people say, oh, it's a man cave. No, it ain't a man cave. It's a basement. Sorry. We don't do that man cave thing around here. But anyway, so yes, I got the COVID, and I'm just thankful I'm not one of those people in the hospital. I am very grateful, actually. Not in the hospital, on the respirator, everything else. It is, for me, it is just really a fairly mild cold. Like so many other folks, I think. You get sick in the fall, you get sick in the spring. Doesn't last long. You're done with it. It's kind of like that, but not so bad, actually. So if anyone wants insights on actually having the COVID, or if you want to share your own, what's that like for you? Give us a call, 774-2424. We can commiserate. How about that? Some big changes. I don't know, big changes. Every 20 years or so, the IRS releases a new table, a life expectancy table. And even though life expectancy, obviously, in the last couple of years is kind of, what's going on with that? Actually, not much has changed. See, the funny thing is, this virus, what do you call it? COVID, excuse me. COVID, it hits the old people, right? It hits them, whacks them hard, okay? And the question is, why aren't we seeing a lot of excess deaths among old people? Because old people are the primary death victims. And I've been saying this for 2 years. You just go to cdc.gov, right? And the Centers for Disease Prevention and Control, cdc.gov. And you can see all the stuff I'm talking about. It's right there. They make it available. It's your tax dollars at work. So don't take anything I say for true. You don't have to. You just go look. And you can click around if you kind of get into that. You can click around. All kinds of stuff. Demographic information, age, race, income group, all kinds of stuff. It's right there for you. Please, and if you think, hey, you're no data scientist, which I would totally agree with. Hey, you're no doctor. Yeah, I agree with that one also. I'm not. But I figured there's a reason they're putting that stuff out there. I mean, I'm not a complete idiot. Some people would admit. So anyway, go to the CDC thing. And the interesting thing with these life expectancy tables with the IRS is just coming out with is you haven't seen a big decrease in life expectancy. The decrease that you're seeing is thanks to OxyContin among middle-aged people. It doesn't seem to be because older people are all of a sudden dying of the elder plague. They're not dying that much sooner. It's kind of interesting that way. But anyway, that's a change. IRS, for the first time in 20 years, and they do this periodically, but it's been 20 years, just updated the life expectancy tables. So if you're one of those people who absolutely, positively hates taking the required minimum distributions from your individual retirement account, or if you're under 59 and a half and you'd like to start taking it sooner, I've got good news for you when we get back from the break. Two good little items of good news. Sort of technical stuff, but why not? I'm a lawyer after all. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your positive personal attorney. Much you could just go to David Carrier Law, squish it all together. So it's all one big word. Don't try to pronounce it as one big word, though. Just separate it out, davidcarrierlaw.com. And that's the website. So there's all kinds of wonderful stuff on the website. Love to see you at one of our workshops. So you could even buy the Sunday paper. So if you buy the Sunday paper, pretty much anywhere in Michigan, or if you, just buy the Sunday paper anywhere in Michigan, and you'll see where the workshops are being held. So convenient, so close to you. And I would love to see you at the workshops. That's right. And I'm positive that you will enjoy the workshops. No problem there. So anyway, let's see. What do we got? Oh, good stuff. The IRS has changed its life expectancy tables. Okay. So they did a couple of things. Here's the thing you need to understand about life expectancy tables. These are tables used by the government, and I suspect that fairly shortly we'll be getting these changes as well. with the Medicaid. Okay, but you have to use. It's very important here when you're talking about this stuff. You have to use the correct life expectancy tables that the particular agency you're dealing with also uses. So if you were to use an insurance company's life expectancy table, this happens a lot. So somebody gets an annuity and they'll go, oh boy, I can get a Medicaid-friendly annuity. And then they use the life insurance company's life expectancy tables, and then surprise, they get denied because they didn't use Department of Health and Human Services life expectancy tables. So the IRS has life expectancy tables. The insurance companies, most of them have their own life expectancy tables, and then Medicaid has theirs. Social Security has theirs. They're all pretty close, but they're all different. And you need to get this stuff correct. You need to bring correctness to it. Okay, so here's the good news. Big tease in the last hour, but here's the good news about what they have just come out with. Two things. One, because you can use now listen. Life expectancy. Let's start with what that is, because people get the idea. They're like, what? I have a 10-year life expectancy, but I'm feeling terrible. I'll be lucky to make it to next week. Okay, but the life expectancy table is not based on how long anyone thinks you yourself that you are going to live. Okay? Doctors can say, oh, he's got 6 months, doctor. 6 months, doctor? Yes, 6 months. Oh, terrible. But the life expectancy tables aren't about that. They're not about you in particular. They're about people your age. People who are your age, right? How many of them will be dead, right, in the coming years? That's what life expectancy is about. And your life expectancy is not how long you're going to live. It's just a number that says, okay, right now there are, pick a number. There are 100,000 people, 100,000 women, right, who are aged 75. 100 women, 75. A life expectancy table says your life expectancy is now 10 years, around there, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to die in 10 years. What it means is that half of the women, 75 years old, who are alive right now, half of them will be dead, right, in 10 years, all right? It doesn't say anything about who they're going to be, or it doesn't say anything about you personally. It's just half of the people your age will, when somebody says you have a life expectancy of whatever it is, all they're saying, but what they're saying is that half of the people your age will be dead in that number of time, in that number of years, in that amount of time. Okay? That's what life expectancy is. So people think, well, you only have one life expectancy. Well, no, it changes. Every year it changes. Because if you survived the year, well, you were one of those people who made it. There are a bunch of other folks who died already. Okay? And so now, at age 70, you have a certain life expectancy. If you're still alive at age 71, right, you have a different life expectancy. It's pushed it off a little bit. That's how life expectancy works. If you have a question about that, just give me a call, 774-2424, area code 616-774-2424. Now, here's why it's important. Because the longer the life expectancy, then the smaller your required minimum distribution. See? So a very popular technique, very popular, makes a lot of sense, is for, so when you retire, you say, well, I have a 15-year life expectancy. I will take out 1/15 of my IRA every year, so that when I die in 15 years, I'll be down to zero. Well, it doesn't work like that, you see, because every year that goes by, right, you're not counting down, you're pushing off. You're pushing off, right? So the key here is that you want to recalculate your RMDs, your required minimum distributions from your IRA, 401k, 403b, all those tax advantage retirement accounts. You want to recalculate that every year so that you never run out of money. okay? But you have to take at least, get this, you have to take at least the smallest amount you can take out of your IRA is the amount based on your current year's life expectancy, which will also be the smallest amount. What if you don't do that? What if you don't take out the required minimum distribution? Now you have a 50% on top of the ordinary income tax. You have a 50% penalty tax on top of it. So I guess you better take out your required minimum distributions, right? Well, there are an awful lot of you, a lot of us, right, who hate taking the required minimum distributions. That's my savings, and now the dingity-dong government is taxing me on it. Terrible. Well, here's the thing. Now that life expectancy is longer, what that means is that you can take it out. You can take out less. So if you're talking with your financial advisor, your whoever it is that handles that for you, be sure to tell them that you heard it here first. Be sure to tell them, hey, knucklehead, use the 2022 life expectancy tables. And they say, oh, well, we've had these forever. And the answer is yes, you have. You've had them for 20 years. And they just updated them this year, in fact, last week. Okay? So it's a new set of life expectancy tables that mean that you take out less. Now, the other thing they did, if you're under 59 and a half and you want to retire early, a lot of people doing that, this great resignation and all that, you can avoid the penalty tax, the 10% penalty tax on taking withdrawals from your IRA before 59 and a half. And these new life expectancy tables, and there's a revenue ruling that came out also, which is very beneficial. If you're under 59 and a half and you want to retire, you want to start taking advantage of all that money, all that moolah that you saved in your IRA, 401k, 403b, you want to start taking it before 59 and a half. If you want to, you can. And they made a huge change that will make this much more popular, I think, for folks, much better for folks going forward. Okay? So if that's you, give us a call, 616-774-2424. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and you're listening to The David Carrier Show. Welcome back to The David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and I know there are some people out there, who want to call 774-2424, 616, area code 616-774-2424, 774-2424. We will get your question, comment, or concern on the air, provided it deals with estate planning, which would be wills, trust, and probate, elder law, which is how we hang on to your stuff for you. Anybody want to do that? Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah. Well, if you want to know how to do it, now's the time to call 774-2424. If, let's see, what else? Real estate? Yeah. Thinking of selling your house? You bought a pig in a poke because, everyone was bidding on the house, so it must be worth $1 gazillion. And I sure didn't have time for any inspections. And now, what do you got? Did that happen to you? It's going to be happening to more and more people, I think, who skipped all the prelims and went right to take my money, please. I think that's going to be happening. Anyway, if that happened to you, give us a call, 774-2424. We also deal with business law, okay, real estate and business law. So if you're running a business, wish you were running a business, want to start a business, or the business gave you the business, now's the time to call 774-2424. There we go. Got that out of the way. Now, sometimes people say, oh, why can't you talk more about the law, huh? How come you got to talk about other stuff? Well, it seems it's all a interconnected web, right? Everything leads to everything else. That's the way it works in society. So I don't apologize for whatever else I say, because I'd be apologizing all day long, wouldn't I? Yeah, pretty true. So for those of you who want me to get hyper technical, or are looking for that slight edge, let's do that. As I said before, life expectancy is just the over/under that you're going to die. Right? Half the people your age will be dead by whatever they're saying your life expectancy is. That means half the people are still alive, okay? So it's not like, oh, you got a 10-year life expectancy. Doesn't mean we we get all the people on that birthday and whack them all on that, 10 years from now. That's not how it works. It just means that half of you have gone, but the other half is still around, which means you have a longer life expectancy, which means we have to recalculate that thing every year. The good news is that with the new life expectancy tables, which aren't tremendously longer, but it's 20 years, so they are longer, it will reduce your required minimum distribution. Now, generally speaking, you can always take out more. That's not a problem. But there is an exception to that. What if, we've got Jay on the line. Hello, Jay. Welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and sometimes I don't know how to flip the switch on that one. How you doing this morning?
How you doing, David?
Perking and working and having a ball.
Hey, good question.
Fire away.
Yeah, driving in the snow. I got a question about quitclaim deeds.
Okay. Yep.
My brother-in-law lives next to us. My wife is over there pretty much 24/7 taking care of him because he's diabetic and such.
Okay.
He came here from California with pretty much nothing but his Social Security check.
Okay.
And he got a quitclaim deed when his mother lived in the house, so he could take care of the house. And it's getting to a point now where we've got to make a decision on what to do. Can we get a quitclaim deed?
So he owns the house?
In my wife's name. Well, he in the bank, yes.
Okay. So he mortgaged the house, or is it mother-in-law's mortgage?
Well, it was his mother-in-law or his mother.
His mother, yeah.
He came here and he got a quitclaim deed. He took over the payments, whatever,
Yes.
And now, can we get a quitclaim deed to do basically the same thing while we're taking care of him, so that when he does passes, we don't have to go through all this mumble jumble when to get rid of the house or whatever.
So let's pretend I'm every other attorney in the world. You want to do that first? Let's pretend that. Oh,
sure,
yeah.
let's
Quitclaim deed, that's a great idea.
Hey, Mr. Every Attorney.
Yeah, you should do that. That's a great idea. I get that quitclaim deed. Sure, we'll have it done by next week. No problem. That's a great idea. Okay, that's what everybody else is going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, because how old are you, if I could ask?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm 61.
Okay.
My brother-in-law is going to be 80 in September.
Okay. So I'm not going to tell you that. See, everyone else tells you that. And would it get the house to you when he dies? Yeah, it would. Okay. But there are other consequences that are not good consequences. So being 61, you're still working, I'm guessing. And, my whole thing is, how do I protect assets?
Well,
Go ahead.
My wife isn't working. She's retired. So
Yeah.
She's over there all the time. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I heard that. Yep. So here's the thing. We want to get you the house. The question is not, does Jay and his wife get the house? The question is, how do you get the house? And what people just blow off and drives me nuts, death is a planning opportunity. Okay? See, if brother just gives you the house, now you got and you need long-term care, or your wife does, or what have you, now you got a 5-year problem. Okay, what am I going to do with this house? Or with the money from the house? Either one, assuming it's not underwater. So most people would say, oh, he's only got a house. I would never do a trust. I'm saying absolutely you do a trust. Absolutely you do a trust. And you use that ladybird deed to put the house in the trust so that when brother dies, right, now the house is in the trust. And when it comes to Jay and his wife, right, or it goes to your wife, or however you decide to work that, it comes to you in trust. What that means is you can now sell it, and if it's done correctly. I always say that. It's not just any old trust. You got to be thinking about this, right? See, because you've got this terrific opportunity right now. Because brother-in-law is not going to do diddly squat anyway, right? If anyone's going to do this, it's going to be you and your wife, right? Right. So you got to do it for him so that all he does is mark his X on the piece of paper, and then, that's what you need to do. But what you need to do, my suggestion, is you do a trust, and it was, oh, we do a trust. You do the trust, and you do the powers of attorney and everything else, so that, number one, the nursing home doesn't wind up putting a lien on the house because brother screwed up his Medicaid, and now you lose the house because it goes to his medical bills. That's
I have financial power of attorney now.
great.
And my wife has power of attorney over his medical. So
Great. So two things we would look at there. Do you have what we call a bill-paying power of attorney? Because that's what most of them are. All it does is it allows you to pay the bills until the money's all gone.
That's what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Well, and that's
that's what I do now.
Understood. And you need it for that. You do. But there's also this estate planning aspect of it, which most people just kind of blow off. Well, you don't want to do that. Okay, you want the power of attorney that enables you to do what you need to do to get him qualified for the Medicaid. Now, if he needs long-term care, and if your wife is over there all the time, and he's kind of near to well, and he doesn't have much of a way of income, you ought to get him on the PACE program. PACE just doubled its service area. Doubled. In Kent County, now they're in Ionia, now they're in, and they're all over the place now. It's amazing. It's wonderful.
We're down in Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo's always had it. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect. So we get him on the PACE, and you do a trust that says when brother-in-law dies, the house goes in the trust. Now you say, well, why not just go directly to his sister? The reason is you have this opportunity when he dies to put it in a trust for sisters. Can you hang on through the break? Because this is really important. We got to knock this out, okay? We got the news. And
Yep.
We'll be right back.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Jay. Thank you. You're listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your positive personal family attorney. Hello, and welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and now is the time for you to give us a call, 616-774-2424. We'll get your question, comment, or concern on the air. That's how easy it is. 616-774-2424. You found the place where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law. We've got Jay on the line. Jay was a holdover from the first hour of the show. And Jay, I'm going to see if I can kind of summarize the situation, because this is just so important, and it really kind of illustrates a couple of things: what is usually done and what can be done. And right in your family, you see the issue. Jay and his wife live next door to mother-in-law. Okay, mother-in-law brought her 80-year-old son, 20 years older than Jay and his wife, brought 80-year-old son back from California with his Social Security. That's all he's got, Social Security, to live with her because he needed a place, right? He's 80 years old, diabetic, et cetera, et cetera. Dutiful sister is taking care of her brother-in-law, right? They live very close to each other next door, and sister's over there all the time ministering to brother-in-law's needs. Brother-in-law got the house from mother-in-law. So mom gave the house to this one. And then the question is, well, what do we do now? He's 80 years old, not in the best of health, et cetera, et cetera. And sister is going to get the house. Now, there is a mortgage on the house, which under the Garden St. Germain Federal Depository Institutions Act, as everybody knows, from the 80s, that means that they can't call the loan simply because somebody died. So when mom died, brother could keep making the payments on the home mortgage without any concern. Same way when brother dies, okay? Sister can continue to make the payments. Now, you have to ask yourself, is that a good idea, given what the very low interest rates we have now? If you're paying more than a few percent, then maybe refinancing is a good idea. But on the other hand, it's kind of nice not to worry about having to go through all the rigmarole of doing another loan. We just keep making the payments on the loan that mother-in-law had, that mom had, and eventually we get the thing paid off. Also, since this has been going on for a while, and this is just another little Medicaid, not a Medicaid thing, but a mortgage thing, we may be in the life of the loan where the payments don't go to interest anymore, but knock down principal directly, okay? So that would be another reason to hold off on doing a refinance because you're just paying principal at this time. So, Jay, have I kind of summed things up appropriately?
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it.
Okay. So here's the thing that could have been done, and 99.9% of attorneys are going to tell you, oh, yeah, let's just do the quitclaim deed. Sure, well, that's what we'll do. Everybody says that, right? It's a missed opportunity because and mother-in-law could have done this for Sonny Boy. What she could have done was a trust and then taken the house off the table, right? So it wouldn't count against any debts, medical or otherwise, that your brother-in-law would have. Now, maybe he has no debts. Great. Love it. Wonderful. Maybe he does. Oh, terrible. Now they can come after the house. But mother-in-law could have set this up in such a way that would never have made any difference. But she didn't. She did what everybody else does, which is just quitclaimed it to the son. Now, let's not do that again, okay? Because now that it's brother-in-law's house, right, brother's house, two things going on. Number one, brother, based on what you're telling me, and you're in Kalamazoo, which is PACE country, right, Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly country, and if sister's over there ministering to his needs and he's on dialysis, he's going to automatically qualify for PACE. Let's get him on the PACE, because PACE means if he gets to the point where, he's got neuropathy because of the diabetes, he loses a leg, he loses a foot, whatever, now assisted living and skilled nursing will be available through PACE. But they're going to do everything they can, or move heaven and earth, to leave him in the house so that he gets to stay at home. We don't want him going to the nursing home. They don't want him to. But let's not have this all fall on your wife. Are you with me on this? So
Yes,
that would
am.
be number one. Number two, what happens when he dies? So let's take care of him now. I'm all in favor of that. All in favor of that. And I'm all in favor of getting a bit of return on your tax dollars. That's what PACE is. And it's, like right now, I don't know if she's doing this, giving him the bed baths. I don't know if she's, changing the linen. I don't know what she's doing. But PACE will do personal hygiene.
She is doing it all.
Okay. And now let me ask you this question. How much, what do you want to say? How much forbearance, how much milk of human kindness does that leave over for Jay? Your wife.
Well, I'm kind of by myself out here on an island trying to figure it all out.
Right. Well, and when your wife has been doing that all day, taking care of brother, which you don't want to get in the middle of that, but it doesn't leave much left over, for you. And, she feels it too. It's not a good thing. So let's get somebody else in there, somebody who's already been paid for, right? This Medicaid PACE program, right? You've already paid for it. You've paid for it. Brother-in-law's paid for it. Mother-in-law has paid for it. Let's lift the burden on your wife a little bit. Okay? She doesn't have to go it all alone. And you don't have to look at a can of Dinty Moore stew every night either. You know what I'm saying?
I do all the cooking.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go. All right. Well, put in your suitably sexist whatever there. Okay. So my point is that there's help out there. There's help for brother that sister does not have to provide. Okay. That's number one. Number two, don't do the freaking deed. Everybody does the deed. Don't do the deed. Ladybird deed. Ladybird deed. Oh, it's the answer. Ladybird deed the thing, yes, into a trust that says when brother-in-law dies, right, sister gets the house in trust. Okay, and there's a way to set this up so you don't lose the principal residence exemption. Well, you would because you're living next door. You lose the principal residence exemption, but you don't uncap the tax value of the property. You don't double, triple, quadruple the amount of property tax you're paying because the SEV went up. You're going to stick with the old taxable value because your wife is a relative of the first degree. He can transfer it to her through trust. It'll be fine. But when you do that, right, if you guys, and we haven't gotten into your financial situation obviously at all, but if you guys need the long-term care, this house is going to be an asset. And I'll tell you, it's the bone that chokes the dog every time when we're doing a Medicaid case and we've got an inherited house. What do we do with the house? Now we got to sell it. We just did this 2 days ago, right? Where we got to get rid of the house. We lost 2 months of eligibility on the nursing home because we couldn't get rid of the house. Whereas if there had been a plan in place, we wouldn't have to worry about it. But there wasn't, so we had to worry about it. We had to deal with it. Okay, we can deal with it. But we lost 2 months of eligibility. We don't want to do that, okay?
Yep.
And you might lose the value of the whole house. So the one thing that you might be getting is this house. And if you do it what I would describe as correctly, I think it's correct. So wife gets a trust with the house in it, not the house directly. 2 advantages to that. Number one, if something were to happen to either of you, the house is off the table. You sell the house, now that money is off the table to any of your predators and creditors. That's number one, okay? The second thing is, if you sell this house, because you don't want it, you've got a house next door, you know, you're going to sell it, let's say, if that's what you decide to do. Well, you don't want the buyer of the house who's living next door to you, for crying out loud, to keep coming over. You don't want them to sue you. Oh, I didn't know that the basement was in such bad condition. I didn't know this. You didn't tell me that. Blah, blah, blah. Instead, it's brother-in-law's trust that sold them the house. Are you with me on this?
Yeah.
So if brother gives the house to sister and sister sells the house, you and sister, you and your wife, are on the hook to the buyer. But if you do it through trust, you get the money, which is the end game anyway, but you leave the liability back on the trust. So you don't have to deal with it. Are you with me on this? So, so both ways, you know, the typical thing that people typically do, right? And I wouldn't say it never works, right? Because it does work. It does work. But you have no reason for thinking it works. It's like, hey, you know, it might be 80 degrees outside right now. Well, wait a second. No, that's January in Michigan. It's not going to be 80 degrees. Yeah. Well,
it's about 20 right now.
Yeah, but sometimes it might be. Sometimes it's like 60 degrees. Well, you're not going to plan your life as if it's 60 degrees in January, because guess what? Lots of times it isn't. Okay? So what you want to do, give us a call at the office, okay? 800-317-2812. Because you got real opportunities here, okay?
All right. Thank you very much for all the information. I'll give the office a call.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. You're listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's positive personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your positive personal attorney. Your family's positive. Because, yes, I tested positive for the virus. That's correct. Don't really understand how all that works, but, you know, got the vaccine, got all the rest of that good stuff, trying to be healthy and what have you. Well, you know, I've been told repeatedly now, the doctors are saying, you know, and they're doctors, so they should know. We'll see. Eventually, everyone's going to get it, so I guess this was my turn. But you know, the vaccine that doesn't prevent you from getting it, and frankly, it's a pretty mild case, I have to say. So I'm not, you don't hear me complaining. I'm not complaining. But I am back in the saddle again. Back when a friend was a friend, you know, back in the basement again. Keeping everyone else safe. I don't know how that goes. Anyway, for those of you who are just joining us, we were talking to Jay, and what is so compelling to me, I mean, it's such a I don't know, what do you want to call it? Concatenation of events, a combination of circumstances. It's a perfect storm. You know what I mean? A situation like that, which is not unusual. Okay, you say, well, that's pretty unusual to have the older brother come back from California to be nursed by the wife after the mom died and deeded the house. And you think that's unusual. It's not that unusual. It's not at all that unusual. And their story happens thousands of times across the state of Michigan, millions of times across the United States. Bits and pieces of it, right? And what is so annoying, I think that's fair to say. It is annoying. It annoys the hell out of me. Frustrating. Yes, I'm frustrated as well. Frustrated and annoyed. Your show host is a frustrated, annoyed person. Because there's such opportunity for regular folks to use some of these. I'm talking about, they changed the life expectancy tables, okay? So for some people, this is sort of a big deal, right? Changing the life expectancy tables. If you're under 59 and a half, what it means is and they changed some other things too. Some things that nobody ever looks at, kind of deep in the tax code. Oh, who cares about that? Well, if you're under 59 and a half and you want to retire early, which apparently a lot of people are doing now because of the COVID and everything else, they want to take the break now. And they think that their IRA is locked up until they're 59 and a half. That is not true. There is a way you take substantially equivalent payments, and now you can do it. But the problem was the interest rate that they were using was such that you could only take such a small amount out of the IRA, right, that it wasn't practical. Well, then they just established a 5% floor on that, which makes it really practical for a lot more people, okay? It's a game changer. If that's what you're doing, but how many people are doing that? Not many, right? Not many. Or if you're taking the RMDs and it just frosts you that you have to take the RMDs because you want to save that money. You want to leave it for the grandkids or whoever, right? Fine. Or for the kids or whatever. Well, okay, the fact that they changed the life expectancy tables is significant. It matters. It does matter, right? But it's not a game changer. You know what I mean? It makes it better. And a lot of what we do is looking for that slight edge. How can we make things just a little bit better? Okay? But then you look at a situation like this, and it's like, it's Oklahoma land rush kind of making it better. You know what I mean? There's just so much that can be done here. And this is where the annoyance and frustration comes in. And it usually isn't. It usually isn't. And you go to people that you think you should be able to rely on, it would seem to me, whether it's your financial advisor, your attorney, the guy next to you in the pew at church, experts, I mean. And you're told, oh, just do the deed. All you have to do is the deed. And it's like you are leaving such opportunity on the table. So let's kind of pull this apart, right? We've got a situation where a sibling, a sister, is caring for her 20 years older brother. Well, that's a beautiful thing. And we don't want to get in the way of that. We just want to facilitate that. But it also happens that the sister is married. Okay? You tell me how your relationship is going to be better if your spouse, right, is over taking care of the convalescent, and frankly geriatric and frankly hospice qualified probably, sibling all day long, right? I mean, let's face it, she can barely tolerate you as it is. How's she going to do it when she's exhausted with taking care of that guy all day long? How's that going to work for you? Huh? How's that going to work for her? And of course, she's going to do it because she's just that kind of good person, who wants to take care of the family, wants to do the good thing, all the rest of it. That's wonderful, okay? But with the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly, with the PACE program, without endangering the house, because you want to get the house. Oh, if I go on Medicaid, I'm going to lose the house. Not true. Not true. And PACE can really lighten the load. Now, the thing is, down in Kalamazoo right now, we're on a 5-month wait period. Not in Grand Rapids, not in Kent County, not in Muskegon County, not in Ottawa, not in Ionia, not in other places. But down there, 5-month wait period. Why? Because they can only add 10 people a month. Okay? Are you with me on this? So at least get it started, because every once in a while the 5 months goes to 2 months, goes to nothing, goes to back to 5 months. You never know. So you start this process. You get it underway so that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. When sister, wife, finally hits that wall, and they all hit the wall, sooner or later they hit the wall. When that happens, you're not 5 months from now, right? You're taking care of it right now. Do you see? And if you were to be the one who takes over the mortgage payments or what have you, then you're good to go on that as well. Do you see? So number one, let's get the care for brother that he needs without overburdening the family, which is what's going on right now. Okay? Let's make it better for Jay and his wife and the sister. Because why not? Why not? Are you really opposed to getting a payback on your tax dollars? Do you really think that you don't deserve anything? I mean, really? Do you really think you ought to, work your wife to death, taking care of the brother, and sacrifice your own relationship? Why? When there's help out there, all you have to do is, put out the hand. There it is. For crying out loud. Let's do that. Number one. Number two. How are we going to get the house to the next generation? People apologize for this all the time. Oh, I don't want to seem greedy. You're not being greedy. For crying out loud. Mother-in-law paid for the house. Father-in-law paid for the house. Gave it to brother-in-law. Now you're going to get it. It's not greedy to say thank you. That's not greed. You're listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. And this is the place where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law. Give us a call, why don't you? Easy to do, 616-774-2424. Drop me an email, david@davidcarrierlaw.com, david@davidcarrierlaw.com, or just go to the website, davidcarrierlaw.com. And sign up for a free life plan workshop. These are the workshops we're doing in all of the offices, whether it's up in Norton Shores, down in Portage, over in Holland, or at the mothership, of course, the home office in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Big news this week. Big, huge news. The Kent County PACE organization, Kent County PACE, has just doubled its service area. One of the frustrations with PACE is that it is such an amazingly good program. It's designed to keep you at home. Get that? Your tax dollars at work. You don't pay for. You already did pay for this. What am I saying? You don't pay for it. You paid for it. All right? You did pay for it. It's just that you don't have to pay any more for it. You keep your income. You stay in your house. They bring the hospital bed. They bring the oxygen tank, or the concentrator, or what, I don't know. What do you need? That's what they bring. And it's all your doctors. Now, here's the thing. You do have to put up with the University of Michigan health system, formerly Metro Hospital, right? Those are where the doctors come from. So if you're a Sparty or whatever, maybe you have a psychological or philosophical issue with depending on the University of Michigan. Don't be an idiot. They're absolutely wonderful doctors over there. So anyway, that's where it's coming. They just doubled it. So all kinds of folks who in the past we'd have to say, oh, I'm sorry, you're out of the service area. Oh, we can't help you, blah, blah. Now it's available to you, right? They estimate there's like 261 families that are eligible right now, something like that. I saw the number somewhere. Like let's just say over 250, okay? Don't ding me on it. Over 250 families that right now, immediately could benefit from the program in the new service area. And they've expanded into Ionia and everything else. It's a wonderful, wonderful program. It keeps you at home. Did I say that already? I think I did. It doesn't cost you anything. You keep your income, your Social Security and your pension. Now there is an income requirement. You can't have more than, call it $2,400. It's actually more than that, but call it $2,500. If you're over, you don't qualify for it. Sorry. But for most people, that's not going to be an issue. And there's other things we can do to bring the income down. So it's always worth a look, right? So big news. Let's get that done. And we've got Mike on the line. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the David Carrier Show.
Thank you. Glad to be on here. Hopefully you can answer my question.
One hopes.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just hoping I can.
The question is...
Yeah, but you got to tell me what it is
question
first.
is,
Oh, wait. I'm not going to do the Karnak thing, Oh.
My mother is in the hospital with COVID.
Okay.
And I know this is going to be a touchy subject for some people to listen to, but my sister has power of attorney over medical, financial, and the hospital is not recognizing that. My mother does not want to be put on a ventilator. She's having a hard time with a mask, breathing nebulizer.
Okay.
So they called hospice in and said, well, because her oxygen is only at 80%, we're gonna give her fentanyl every 15 minutes to ease her pain until she passes. And we said, whoa, wait a minute. She's at 80%. I said, you haven't tried some other stuff. I said, let's try it. We have power of attorney. And hospice said, unfortunately, because she is conscious, she can make her own decisions. And there's, not much you guys can do. So now we have a concern not only about this, because come Tuesday, if she isn't better, they're going to give this fentanyl to her every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And hospice initially told us we could be there to discuss it with my mother. And now they're saying we cannot be in the room because we're not the patient. And so they're going to have her sign documents to allow her to receive the medication, the two medications, one's fentanyl, whatever the other one is, and they're saying it's just going to ease her pain. And so we asked, well, why can't we try taking her off the oxygen and seeing if she can't get better? What is the hurry? And then so if they do this, now we're worried about, because she doesn't have a will, we're worried about the property, the house, the medical bills that are going to come in. What do we do?
And that's on Tuesday is when we're having that conversation? Tuesday is
Correct.
when they say they're going to do
Well, they're going to do what they want, and they're telling us we can't do anything about it.
Well,
even though we have power of attorney.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You can delegate your financial authority with a power of attorney even when you're competent. All right. So if you're mentally competent, you can say someone else makes my financial decisions for me. That's fine, because in fact, lots of times that's why you do a power of attorney, so that someone in a different city can sign the closing documents. This was back before FedEx, obviously. But with healthcare, if the person is competent, it's only if the person's not competent that the healthcare power of attorney kicks in. Now, part of that healthcare power of attorney, and we do this as a separate document as well, is the privacy release, the Health Insurance Portability and Privacy Act. And you're supposed to be able, if you have a HIPAA form, and I'm surprised if your mom didn't sign one of those, then at least you can find out what's going on, which I suspect is what's going on, because they're still talking to you, even though the healthcare power of attorney is not in effect. Then the question becomes: is mom actually competent at 80%? If her pulse ox is 80%, is she competent or isn't she? Where are we? And there is a lot of discretion, especially with the COVID, about letting people in the room and all. Also, you've got a situation where where, as you say, the ducks are not in a row at this point, and it depends largely on the financial power of attorney that was done. Now, and just to compare contrast, I mean, whenever we do a financial power of attorney, we assume that that's the only document we'll ever get. We just make that assumption. And we also assume the law is going to change. So we put into the power of attorney all kinds of stuff about creating trusts and doing estate planning and all the rest. That's very unusual, actually. I mean, generally, the financial power of attorney that you get is sort of a bill-paying power of attorney. that lets you sell the house to pay the medical bills, but it doesn't let you do a trust to avoid selling the house and to get the hospital paid anyway. That's so. Are they absolutely denying any access to her at all, or are they just saying, hey, she's not going to be there? We're not going to let you be there on Tuesday when we have this conversation, or what's going on?
Yeah, they will not allow us to be in the room when they have the conversation with my mother because we are not the patient. She is the patient. So they're not allowing us to be in there. And then also because of COVID, they restrict your access to these individuals because, and I'm telling them, I said, you guys are promoting fear. I said, you guys are telling her that there's no other option. I mean, she's at 80%. I could see if she's at 40, 50% oxygen, but she's
No,
at
she'd
80%.
be dead at that point. Even at 80%, you're impaired.
Well, there's, I asked that question, and of course, we're in their wheelhouse, so they're telling us,
right.
She's very competent. She knows what she's doing. And I said, she knows what she's doing based on what you're telling her, and you're not giving us the option to seek, alternative, or for us to say, hey, Mom, wait a second, there is a different way to handle this, but they're promoting fear. So we're stuck. How do we prevent one?
Right.
Well, I mean,
hey, Mike, that music means I got to get out. Hang on, and we'll wrap this up in the next segment, okay? So hang on.
All
right, you're listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal positive attorney. So here's the deal, Mike. Let me see if I can summarize. Mom's in the hospital right now. She's got the COVID. Oxygen levels dropped to around 80%. I'm guessing she must be on oxygen now, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's got to bring her back up to the 95% range, right? It's 80% if she's off the oxygen. Is that correct?
No, it's 80% with the oxygen.
Serious? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's obviously that's endgame.
Yes. Well, here's what we're more wanting to know. My brother and sister are actually listening to you right now.
Okay.
How do we protect ourselves and our assets for our children? What protection, given this new COVID, era that we're in,
right.
How do we protect our assets, and how do you take control of the situation where third parties cannot come in?
Yeah, so we got two issues there. One is the what do we do to make sure that your decisions are your decisions? And one of the things with most healthcare power of attorneys, they don't cover the mental health issues, right? So you want to make sure that your power of attorney does cover that. Your healthcare power of attorney does cover that, which I say most don't. Then
what do you mean mental health?
Well, most of the time, the healthcare power, like the ones you get from the hospital, right? You fill in the blank kind of thing. And frankly, most of the ones that we see attorneys doing, they don't cover in fact, Pine Rest won't even look at your healthcare power of attorney because they just assume. I mean, I've heard this from multiple clients. They don't want to look at it because they just assume that mental health issues are not covered. So if you break your hip, no problem. But if you have euphoria or disorientation or whatever because you're not getting enough oxygen, well, that's not covered by the healthcare power of attorney. Now you have to go to probate court and get a special power of attorney, a special guardianship to cover mental health issues. Don't ask me why people do it like that. I don't know. We never have, but it's an issue. So that's number one. You get a plan that's done that covers all the bases. The other thing is, and you still have some time on this. If you're looking at because once they do the fentanyl, or once they do the I don't want to call it heroin, the morphine. Once they start that, that suppresses respiration all on its own. A couple weeks ago, if you listen to the show, we were at that point with my dad. They thought, okay, we're going to take him off. We're going to give him the morphine. It was fentanyl, and and that'll be kind of the end of it. And then surprised everybody by keep going. My dad His heart kept going. And so now he's set up again. He's got the oxygen thing going, and, God knows when he'll be leaving. I don't know. But the point is that we had the powers of attorney in place. We had, the physicians at the hospital where we were not only allowed myself and two of my brothers, plus a sister, plus the grandkids, everybody in the room. They allowed that. Now, Dad was all about, hey, take me off all this stuff. I'm going home to die. That was what he wanted. But still in all, they were willing to have the family engaged. And everyone else by the cell phone. So sometimes it's an institutional thing, right? But right now, immediately, in the next 72 hours, if mom only has the powers of attorney in place, there are some things that you need to do. And, well, you know what my email is, right? David@davidcarrierlaw.com. I've said that a million times.
I do,
Yeah. So use your cell phone. Send me a copy of the power of attorney, of the financial power of attorney, the healthcare power of attorney. I'll look at it this morning, and I'll get back to you on it. And just
well, how do we? So, I just want to get back to how do we protect ourselves if we come down with it? What can we do? Do we do trust?
Yes.
What is it that we can do that will trump the hospital's authority?
Well, you got two things going on. You got your stuff, you got your property, right? And then you've got the issue with the healthcare. So when we do healthcare, we don't just do a healthcare power of attorney. We do the healthcare power of attorney that includes the mental health power. So if mom's confused or whatever, it's not like, oh, now we got to go to probate court to get a guardianship because she's confused. It's like, no, that's covered here. That's in the document, which typically it is not. The other thing that you do is you wrap up all the financials. You know what I mean? You make sure that they're getting all the benefits that they're entitled to. You make sure that there's a clear path to what happened, who's going to be in charge of the property, how's it going to get to the next generation. You get it to the next generation in trust so that you don't have to worry about losing it yourself. Maybe there's a lot, maybe there's a little, who cares? It was mom's stuff. They wanted to leave it to you. All right, so let's make that happen, and let's not let the nursing home, the hospital, the doctor, whoever, make a claim against it. Let's get those bills paid. Remember, our first goal is our clients don't go broke. The second one is caregivers get paid. That's a big deal for us before the kids get anything. But the fact is, if you do it correctly, then that all happens. Mom doesn't go broke. The caregivers get paid. Now, I would much prefer that they get paid through Medicaid, through Medicare, through insurance, right, rather than sell the house and give them the money. And you can do that.
Right.
But that's just a matter. That's why
you covered that with the previous.
Yeah.
You covered that with the previous caller.
Exactly.
So what I'm more curious about is, as far as if I became incapacitated, or not incapacitated, but the COVID, and is there a document, is there something out there that while I'm somewhat lucid, as the hospital says, that can prevent my kids can say, no, wait a second.
Yeah, so we do 3 documents.
We want to talk to our dad.
Right. Along with the healthcare power of attorney, we do 3 additional documents, okay? It's not just the healthcare power of attorney, which is only effective on disability. We also do the advance directive, which is a very clear statement of what you want, including you must consult with my kids, that kind of thing, okay? So now we have your personal in-writing statement about what you want. That's the advance directive. We also do the HIPAA form, the privacy release form, so that the doctors can talk to your kids. Now, maybe there's a HIPAA form floating around there somewhere that mom signed at some point. So much better that you've got one that's specifically directed to this. And then the third document, which is after the fact, which is a designation of funeral representative, so that we don't get into fights over whether or not how the interment's going to go. So those are the 3 documents that you do along with. This is what I do, along with the healthcare power of attorney. So now nobody's arguing. I can't talk to you because I don't have a valid HIPAA. Oh, yeah, you do. Here it is. Signed by mom, all legal and everything else. Oh, okay, I guess I can. And we don't know what she really wants. Oh, yes, you do, because here's the advance directive. Okay? So that's as good as it gets.
Gotcha.
Okay? But if you shoot me that stuff,
Yep.
David at davidcarrierlaw.com, I will take a look at it. I'll get back to you today. You know, no charge. There's no charge
Thank
for
you.
any of that, okay? Just so you're very clear about that.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney.